and Mrs. Tymeka Chambliss Williams, best-selling author, film director, playwright, and just overall awesome queen. She's going to be serving as our moderator tonight. She's also a podcast host as well. So she'll be serving as our moderator tonight. So listen, I'm going to ask you all just before I bring them up on the stage, I want you to please go ahead and share this broadcast. Go ahead and hit that share button, whatever side you're looking at on your device, hit the share button. Let's go. Let's get some folks in. I'm also going to ask you, family, to please do a favor for me as well. Drop three names in the comment section, family. What that does, it essentially tags people and brings people into the broadcast as well. Okay, drop three names in the comment section. Let's go. We're talking about men's mental health. Ladies, those of you that are single, those of you that are engaged, dating, and married, all of you need to be in on this conversation tonight. Every single one of us knows some man who's having mental health issues. And tonight you may get some really great information that can help you help a man get to a better place in his mental health. All right. With that said, I'm going to bring my awesome guests on and allow them to join our discussion tonight. Grateful to have all of these great people with us tonight, family. Again, my dear brother, who is an awesome businessman, real estate investor, financial literacy advocate, and an apostle, my brother Jared N. Paris, all the way from Florida. How are you, brother?
Outstanding. What's up, King? And greetings to all of you, wonderful kings and queens. It's a great honor to be here once again with you. Excited about part two of our conversation. And as always, I am excited to learn and to grow. I believe that we are to do life together. That means that I can add value to you, but more importantly, you can add value to me, and we learn from each other in this journey that we call life. To be better men, to be better brothers, to be better husbands, to be better fathers. Every aspect of who we are and the many hats that we wear and the pressure that goes with each hat is easy when I can learn from somebody else's mistakes and they can learn from mine. So I'm excited about tonight.
Amen. We're excited as well, my dear brother. And then also, I have this awesome gentleman. He is so many things, but I will simplify it because he doesn't like when I blow him up and toot his horn. So he is simply the CVO, Chief Visionary Officer of Remand, a phenomenal revolutionary movement that I'm honored to be a part of as well. Helping Black men to develop, to become better men, better husbands, better fathers, better businessmen, so that we are all successful in our society. My dear brother, Dr. Donald Morton. Good evening, my brother.
Good evening, man. Let's work. I'm ready to get spicy.
Yes, sir. Let's get it.
Let's work.
Let's get it. And to my beloved sister and queen, Mrs. Tymeka Chambliss Williams. She is a best-selling author, playwright. She is a film director. Yes, you will see her name up in lights soon. We will be talking about Mrs. Tymeka Chambliss, Ty with a Y. We will be talking about her soon, among the others, such as the Shonda Rhimes and the Ava Gardners of the world. We will be talking about her. Yes. Miss Ty, good evening, dear. How are you?
I am well. Good evening. Thank you all for allowing me to be a part of this platform. Last week, Facebook was on fire. So I know we're going to have another great conversation. I'm just super excited to be able to host a conversation and just to get this party going because we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we got a lot of ground to cover. So as my brother Don said, let's get it. Let's work. So let's jump right on in. Miss Ty, you are our moderator. We're following you.
Great. All right, guys. So as Dr. Hightower said earlier, we want to make sure that you guys are tagging someone. So do us three quick favors. Share the video, tag someone, and comment where you're joining us from. We would love to hear what part of the country, what part of the world you are joining us from as we delve into a very necessary topic. We know that last month last month was Men's Mental Health Month. And so we're just extending it out a little bit more because we want to make sure that we are all operating wholly and in purpose. And so we're super excited. So we're going to dive right on in. So guys that are in the audience, if you all have questions, feel free to post your questions in the comment section. We're definitely going to try our best to get to everyone's question if possible. All right, we got Bishop Joyce joining us from South Jersey, Denise Williams from Sacramento, California, and Prophet Keith from Los Angeles, Delaware, Phoenix, Arizona, Memphis, Tennessee. All right, y'all keep it going. All right, we are super excited. Thank you all for joining us. So let's dive right on in. As Dr. Hightower discussed earlier, we are going to talk about dealing with depression. And we know that if you are part of last week's conversation, I think the main topic was nonverbal communication and verbal communication. And so we're pretty much just extending that conversation. All right, Chicago, Illinois, Chi-Town, it's in the building. So let's go ahead on to our first question. And so this is to the entire panel. What societal norms or stigmas often prevent Black men from seeking professional help for depression? And I'll ask that question one more time. What societal norms or stigmas often prevent Black men from seeking professional help for depression?
I'll jump right in on that one, Ms. Ty. When Black men are having mental health issues, it is seen vastly different than how our white counterparts are handled with mental health issues. Being born and raised in LA, I've seen it time and time and time again. I've seen my white counterparts, my white brethren, I've seen them have mental health issues. I've literally seen with my own two eyes a white man jumping up and down on top of an LAPD vehicle, and they took over 30 minutes to talk him down and tase him and gently escort him to the vehicle once they had him subdued and under arrest. Conversely, our Black men have had mental health issues, and it was known to the LAPD and other law enforcement agencies around the country that this man had a mental health issue, and he was shot and killed. That has happened time and time and time again. I've seen two of my friends die right in front of me. One particular with a mental health issue die right in front of me in Los Angeles. And so while many of our white counterparts says, well, why does everything has to be a race issue? Everything is just not like that anymore. It's not like that. Well, our white friends, our white brothers and sisters, they have the privilege of conveniently overlooking the race issue, especially as it relates to mental health. However, we don't have that privilege. We don't have that opportunity. And so the stigma and the societal issues is that when a Black man shows up with any kind of problem, he's seen as dangerous. And so we have to have more discussions like this. And more importantly, we have to have, Ms. Ty, solutions. We have to have mechanisms in place that allow Black men and Black women to have help when they're dealing with a mental health crisis.
Absolutely. Apostle Paris or Bishop Morton, Dr. Morton, did one of you want to expound on that?
I'll jump in and please, it's Jared. There are, what a loaded question. There are so many conditions and social determinants of health that are impacting the reasons why we as men of color are struggling in the area of mental health and mental health awareness. Economic stability, healthcare access, environmental issues, neighborhood issues, family structure, social community context. At its core, we don't value mental health because it was not presented to us as a viable option to help us deal with unseen battles. This whole podcast is called an unseen battle. So if I don't see a problem, why am I looking for a solution? If I don't believe a problem exists, why am I looking for a solution? And so uh, our our challenges as African American men in this country and how that impacts us in the roles that we play as father, husband, brother, uncle, all root into how are we conditioning ourselves to deal with the past trauma, the current trauma, and the future ones, like King G just mentioned. That trauma of our run ins with law enforcement is traumatizing. And because we are held to such a higher standard when we engage with law enforcement, it does require us to come up with different solutions. Now, my story will never be I was an unarmed black man because I carry 19 in a clip and one in a chamber everywhere I go. So you will not, that will not be my headline that he was an unarmed black man. But because I have to always be a fire extinguisher to situations. I'm not allowed to go crazy. I'm not allowed to get angry. I'm not allowed to do those things. So why? Because I'm 19 in the clip and one in the chamber at all times right now. Why? And so it forces me to make sure I am a fire extinguisher and not gasoline. When you throw gasoline with my response to police or my response to crazy people on the road, an explosion happens. And so now I do have the fortunate benefit of living with a mental health therapist. So I'm always on the couch. My wife is a mental health therapist. So her teaching, her atmosphere guides and coaches me that I've got certain situations in my mind and my heart that I have to learn to deal with and find stress relievers and detox. But the first and foremost issue is we were not groomed and taught to know that counseling is a viable option to an unseen problem that I realized that I don't know that I really have. And so once again, if I don't know I have a problem, I'm not looking for a solution. And so that the solution by default then becomes anger, frustration, bitterness, and retaliation because we don't have a solution for the mental factors and the stress and the challenges and the trauma that, and remember, everything that happens to me today on July 30th is filtered through what happened to me 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So you're not dealing with Jared today. You're dealing with a Jared that's looking at today through a lens of 10 years ago. If I didn't deal with the trauma and the mental issues of 10 years ago, that becomes a social determinant of my health. And that's a major issue. And there's a number of those factors, as we just talked about. And some of them are economics. We don't have discretionary income for mental health counseling. Some of our positions in our work don't provide that. And if they do, we don't know that they provide. I hear my wife all the time tell that she's tapped into companies that have mental health awareness as part of their health benefits, and the people don't know it and don't take advantage of it. So those services go untapped into because why? We're not groomed and conditioned like other cultures where mental health is a good thing. We think it's a bad thing. And then as men, the last thing I'll say before I turn over to King Don, we'll walk around with a problem until it hurts. We're wired that way sometimes. Or we'll walk around with a problem, walk around with pain until our foot is falling off. Then we go to the doctor. So there's some conditioning there that we have to deal with as well. That problems don't have to be as large because we could have gotten to them sooner before they've become this giant mountain that now needs to be amputated. And unfortunately, that's within our culture as well, that we'll walk around with issues and problems for years until it gets to the point where we have to address it. I yield the mic.
Absolutely. Counseling is a viable option to an unseen battle. I think that is definitely a highlight for tonight because many times we aren't taught. I remember going to school and people say, "Oh, you want to see a shrink? You must be crazy." It was always taught to us that if you have a third-party therapist or someone to assist you on your journey, something must be mentally wrong with you. Not realizing that's actually something to help keep you on track. So counseling is a viable option to an unseen battle. Now, before Dr. Morton answers the question, Mr. Jared, I just want you to know, 19 in the clip, one in the chamber is probably going to be on somebody's song real soon. So if you haven't copywritten it, go ahead on and get that done tonight.
Bars.
Bars, do you hear me? Hashtag bars. We did have a comment that came in. It was in regards to the depression. And the young lady, and I wanted to get Dr. Morton to respond to this. This was something that was tapped on a little bit last week, but we really didn't dive too much into it. But the response is about toxic masculinity, and we know that more recently, toxic masculinity has been a trending topic. And in many instances, it doesn't necessarily, it's not a good term. It's not something that really, it's more detrimental to the community than anything. But her comment is toxic masculinity prevents them from acknowledging mental health issues. And I wanted to bring that topic up because I do think that is something that a lot of people think, and I would like for us to debunk that tonight. So that topic never comes up, or that comment never comes up again. So Dr. Morton, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yeah, so there are a couple of things to unpack here, right? And I'll talk about toxic masculinity in a moment, because it is a catchphrase that a lot of people use, and they use it wrongly. For many people, toxic masculinity is simply masculinity. It is masculinity in its basic form. And so I have fundamental issues with people that throw around terms around toxic masculinity or gaslighting and these other real terms that of course Jared could talk about better than I could, because we're diagnosing people without necessary skill set to be able to do so, right? So that's number one. Here's number two, though. One of the reasons why I think Jared would agree with me, one of the reasons why brothers don't go and seek help is because there aren't many Black male practitioners that men can identify with, right? So when we look at the overall body of individuals that are doing that kind of work, a lot of white people are doing that work, a lot of our sisters are doing that work. There are not a lot of brothers doing that work. And so I don't trust my feelings with my girl. I most certainly ain't going to trust my feelings with someone that I don't really know. So I think one of the answers is to make sure that we, just like we talk about education, one of the answers is to have more Black male practitioners that are across from us while we sit on the couch, right? So we need to sit on the couch and we need to talk to somebody that looks just like us. Can I take you to a story, Tamika and Jared? Let me take you to a story. September 23rd, 2015, in Wilmington, Delaware, there's a story of Jeremy Bam McDowell. I make his name great every time I talk because he was shot by police. He was in a wheelchair and he was shot by police. He was not, as Jared said, he was not unarmed. He was armed, but they didn't wait to see whether or not he was armed. They opened fire on him in a wheelchair in the middle of a crowded community. Right. But gee, that is not the tripped out moment. The tripped out moment, while it should be about Jeremy McDowell, the tripped out moment is about a young man who was capturing it all on film. And if you guys go back and you look at it, September 23rd, 2015, this is what you will find. The brother is saying this: damn, cuz, just lift your hands. They gonna shoot you. They gonna kill you. Pop, 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 pop. Damn, cuz, told you. No emotion, flatline. Why? Because he doesn't recognize he has been traumatized up to that point. Any normal, healthy, emotional person would have a very, very different reaction than that brother had. But because all he could come up with is what was normalized for him. Police shooting a black man, watching the trauma of his friend die. All of that has been normalized. So one of the things that I argue is this: the only way out of this is to stop normalizing the trauma that black men are having to experience every single day. It is not normal for us to watch our friends die. It is not normal to watch parents bury their children. It is not normal for a man to be quiet and not genuinely have to speak up. It is not normal for a man to have his heart pounding because he sees he's got insurance, he's got all of the necessary paperwork, but as soon as he hears the siren, his heart is pounding out of his chest because of the trauma. Jared said it. It's the trauma that he's experienced in time past. It's the trauma that he's experiencing in the present moment. And it's the trauma that he knows he's about to experience, no matter what officer he is encountering. So what I'm hoping that we do is to do a couple of things. Let's not normalize the trauma. And Jared said this before we came on tonight, Tamika was talking about some of us, he said, some of us need Jesus and a therapist. And my counter to him was all of us need Jesus and a therapist. I did some work at Princeton Theological Seminary at the Black Theology and Leadership Institute in 2015. And what I found out as a part of that cohort, and one of my professors said, I don't understand how any of you would have challenges with therapy. Every Black person needs a coach. I don't care who it is. Every Black person needs a coach because all of us are caught up in this experiment of what it means to be Black in this country. And so I want to celebrate every single brother who decides not to engage the police because he just wants to go home. I want to celebrate every sister who makes it a safe space for her brother to come and unpack it all. I want to celebrate every person who is considering being a mental health practitioner because you want to create a safer space in our communities. Those are the real heroes of our community. You can talk about civil rights, civil rights. You can talk about all of that. We are in a mental health crisis, and Black men are at the center of that crisis.
Yes, absolutely. Stop normalizing the trauma that Black men experience every day. And that takes us to our next question as we're talking about depression and social isolation, systematic oppression, systematic issues. How might depression manifest in risky behaviors among Black men, and what factors contribute to that connection? I'll ask it one more time. How might depression manifest in risky behaviors among Black men, and what factors contribute to this connection?
Well, as we stated in our part one of this, men are speaking their emotions. They're just not doing it verbally. So in other words, we are communicating our emotions. We're just not speaking them out verbally. And once again, 90% of most communication is nonverbal. And so one of those communication forms comes out as depression. One of those communication forms for men comes out clearly as depression. And we have to do, and so to your question though, that then translates into speech, that then translates into thoughts, and then that governs actions. So my how I'm feeling in my emotions, my inner workings of my heart, my mind, my id, my iliad, my ego, as the weight of the trauma begins to rest on me, it creates an environmental structure where dysfunction does become normal, as King Don just mentioned. And as he articulated by the response of that brother, dysfunction has become normal. That weight of him having to deal with those life circumstances day in and day out has become normalized for him. That is going to take him into roads of despair because that dysfunction is now all of his classifications of his environment. That depression makes him speak depressive thoughts, where he is no longer, and I'm not going to get churchy, but he's no longer a Philippians 4:8 thinker. Not the best thoughts don't come out of his mouth. The best things don't come off his heart and his mind. Dysfunctional things come off his lips. And when our Constitution, the Word of God, says that life and death are in the power of your tongue, when you speak negative things, it gets attracted to you. So if I look at my wife and say, "You make me sick," guess what I'm inviting into my environment? Sickness and disease. Why? Because I just said to her, "She make me sick." So those type of talk track, that type of language, because of our state of mind, creates an environment, and then our actions and our deeds are now supporting the mindset that we've articulated. So if I'm in a depressed state, if I lost my job and I feel like I was wrong, whatever reason I lost my job, I'm blaming somebody else. I get anxiety about bills. I get depressed about that. I'm starting to speak negatively, and then it's going to translate into behavior. Because why? I'm already in a state of mind where I feel that the odds are stacked against me. What it does, it also shuts down creativity and innovation, which are automatically in me, but they're suppressed by depression. They're suppressed by anxiety, because my job loss is supposed to activate the creative nature that God placed in me, the innovative nature that God has placed in me to go and do and think something differently. Maybe start that business that I've been procrastinating with doing, maybe write that book, maybe come to King Don and help and have him help me think differently about my situation as a man. But because depression is weighing down on my thoughts and it's now become a part of my vocabulary, my language creates my reality. My language helps shape my reality.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
My language. God's intention was my royal words would help shape a royal reality. So the opposite is also true. My words of depression, my words of dysfunction create an environment of dysfunction. And then my actions have no choice but to respond to the environment that I've created. Now, is that my fault? There's some accountability that I have, but there's so many number of factors that contribute to that. And one of those reasons is because I have not found a way to release the trauma through mental health counseling, through pastoral counseling. And I definitely am not talking to my spouse, my girlfriend, because I don't think she understands. She may not, or she might, but it may not come out understanding. It may come out as nagging. It may come out as get off your butt, go get a job. It comes out negatively, even though her heart is in the right place. So then I don't talk to her. I can't talk to the kids. And so there again creates an environment where I have to shut up, hold it in, but yet communication through my emotions are being clearly given. And that's where that negativity, it comes out as anger. And so that behavior that you mentioned becomes manifested because of my inward thoughts and feelings of how I see myself and how I see the situation. But absolutely. I know King G and King Don can do a better job of articulating that than I can.
Donald?
Yeah, can I tell you another story? I'm full of stories tonight.
Come with it.
Let's go.
I had a client, Ty. I'm not going to tell you his name. I'm going to protect him. I'm going to protect his integrity and his sense of commitment to self. I'm going to protect that. But I had a client. We were in an exchange, as men often do. If you have not been in an exchange, you haven't been around brothers who are passionate about anything, right? Brothers that are passionate have exchanges. We're in the middle of this exchange, Jared, G, Ty. We're in the middle of this exchange. Hey, Ty, guess what he says to me? I'm his coach. And he says, F you, Doc. And I sat. I said, man, you feel better? He said, I feel better. Because it wasn't about me.
Right.
He was saying F you to a whole bunch of people before he got to me.
That's right.
And in chapter 25 of section 5 of the Remand book, The Spiritual Journey for Mastering Life, Leadership, and Legacy, that is a shameless plug. No shame about it at all. But in chapter 25, I have a chapter, Ty, called Let That Shit Out. You gotta let it out. The reason why men suppress it and oppress it is they don't have a vehicle to let it out.
Let it out. Yeah.
And it doesn't always have to be formalized, right? It doesn't always have to be me picking up the phone, calling a coach, calling a therapist. It doesn't have to be that. Sometimes it may mean me going to the gym and hitting a bag. Sometimes it may mean me going to a parking lot and breaking dishes. Sometimes it may mean something unorthodox where I can just let my frustrations out so that I can go back to whatever I've got to do during the course of that day. But you know what happens? We don't give room for brothers to emote. There's something wrong with us if we feel like we have to emote. Brothers have very real emotions. And because we've been trained socially and societally, we've been trained to suppress those. Some would argue that all depression is suppression of one's emotions in such a way that he's refused to let it out.
Yes, sir.
And have space to let it out. And when you give him a space to let it out and just let him talk, let the dude talk, just let him talk. Don't make him govern his words. Don't make him dot every I, cross every T. Let him get out what's on his heart. I am mature enough to sift through all of that. I'm mature enough. And guess what? This is what I want to tell Christians. So is God. God is mature enough to handle your doubts, your language. He's mature enough because what governs God is what it's genuinely deep rooted in your heart. And oftentimes the stuff that we express, until we're able to sift through it all, years and years and years of shut up, boy, man up, dude, years and years and years of that. I just train myself to be quiet. Ain't nobody gonna listen to me anyway. So I'm gonna sit here and be quiet until guess what happens, Ty? I explode. Then I'm in the paper, or I'm in jail, or I'm 6 feet under, all because no one created a space for me to let that shit out. So what I'm suggesting to people is let that dude talk. I don't like the way he talking to me because he ain't even really talking to you, sis. He not talking to you. He ain't mad at you. Jared, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna be quiet, man. When I was going through divorce, I had cheated on my ex-wife. Those of you that know me know my story. I'm unashamed about my story. It is a part of who I was. And I remember being so angry, G. I was angry. And my ex-wife said to my mom, who was living at the time, why is he so angry with me? My mom said, baby, he ain't angry with you.
Angry with you.
He angry with himself. He put himself in this position and he doesn't know how to handle it. And I broke because I wasn't angry with her. I was angry with me. And if we would all learn, we're not all social scientists, we're not all therapists or things of that nature, right? We don't all have the credentials that many of us on the stage have. But what we do have is the ability to hold space. Just hold space without, listen, this is my last point. Just don't take what he says personally, because it ain't about you. He's mad at some countless people that said and did some things before he even met you. And if women would just allow him a space, he'll come around. He'll come around, but you can't do to him what everybody has done to him and tell him, man up, be quiet, you should have it all together. Come on, sis. Give him room. Wow. Give him space to really grow and develop.
You know, Ms. Tara, I want to say something. I want to say something on that really quickly. One of the things that I really have to share, reshare, and reshare. I was teaching in this workshop at Cal Baptist University, and I shared with the women the question. It was FAQ. You know, well, why are men just so closed off and they don't open up to us? And I said, well, I'll give you two reasons. Number one, it's conditioning, that we have been conditioned from boys to men to suppress how we feel, not express how we feel. We were taught real men don't cry. Hey, boy, man up. Hey, don't be a sissy. You know, that's what we were taught. From the time we were 5, 6, 7 years old. Hey, boy, stop all that crying. You're going to be a sissy. That's what's been ingrained in us. So you take a boy and he grows up into manhood, Miss Ty, and the conditioning that he's received his whole entire life. Now he comes in and he has this beautiful wife, and the wife is saying to him to do what's completely contrary to what he's been taught his entire life. Open up to me and be vulnerable. And everything within us says, don't you do that, because real men don't cry. To open up and share, you being a punk, you being a sissy. And so to Don's point that he so beautifully articulated, let that crap out.
Say it, G. Say the word.
let that shizzle out. To that point, every man has to figure out how to get that, because we haven't been taught that that's safe for us. And even those of us who've been on the fields and the courts of play and on the battlefields, we use that as a healthy outlet. But then after the game is over, after the season is over, after we come back from wartime, where do we have to go to let that shizzle out? And so now what I was sharing with the women, Jared, Don, what I was sharing with these women, these awesome women at Cal Baptist University, I was sharing with them that the second reason why men shut down and go into what we call stonewalling mode is because, as Dr. Susan Jeffers talks about in her book, Opening Our Hearts to Men, that she published all the way back in 1989, she said, women, we create barriers of intimacy. She said, women are notorious for creating barriers of intimacy because we don't really want to know how men feel. We expect them to stay on that white horse and continue to be our heroes, even when they're wounded.
Queen Tamika, I would also argue that some of us are letting it out. The challenge is we have found dysfunctional ways, we have found self-sabotaging ways, and we have found counterproductive ways to let it out. So that goes back to your question of what happens. Why does depression lead to certain behavior traits and behavior activities? That is brothers letting things out sometimes. Sometimes we have been conditioned where we let it out in a self-sabotaging way.
Yes.
We let it out in a destructive way.
Right.
And so our sisters are seeing the destruction, but they're not connecting that's me letting it out. And because why my letting it out is also creating patterns of negative behavior traits and patterns of bad behavior. And then I'm conditioning myself with bad behavior. A lot of brothers watch pornography. That's letting it out. A lot of brothers have turned to pornography in and out of the body of Christ. They're letting it out. But then that pornography and that release of endorphins and all of the other biochemicals and mental things that are created with that artificial stimulation creates a self-sabotaging practice, which then I'm now bringing into the relationships of my girls and my wives, and then I'm wondering why they're not meeting the needs, and I'm comparing them to sexual fantasies that are on the TV. They're letting it out. And so once again, as you guys have articulated, there's no environment, because I can't have this conversation in a church service. If King Don is preaching, I'm just going to say, amen, brother, good message. I'm still going to go home and watch pornography and masturbate. But if you get me in a smaller setting where I've got 3 or 4 brothers, I'll let my hair down. I say, hey, G, I'm struggling with pornography. Help me out, man. And so that I am letting it out. I'm just letting it out in typically negative ways, self-sabotaging ways. And I don't see them as self-sabotaging because it's giving me a temporary pain relief.
Right. That's good, Jared. That's good. Ms. Ty, what was that next question you wanted to hit? I apologize for cutting you off. That's excellent insight, Jared.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, I heard TD Jakes say one time, depression is anger turned inside out. And so when you're talking about risky behaviors, then you're talking about how, you know, the negative ways of letting it out and why are men angry and why are men depressed. A lot of times, as Dr. Morton said, they're angry, and so it's depression is anger turned inside out. As Miss Sadira Davis, she said, women, we got to get our sifter game up so we can provide healing listening. And so the next question is pretty much based off of her comment. How do we as women, how do we provide that level of listening, healing listening, so that men can trust us with their feelings, if that's even a question?
Don, I'm gonna let you tackle that one.
Yeah, I think the first thing, Ty, is not turning a session where I'm attempting to emote into me protecting your feelings from the emotions I'm trying to get out. Right?
Wait, say that
Oftentimes,
one more time.
yeah,
Yeah, come on, give it. Yeah. Rewind on that one.
So I'm trying to get my emotions out. I'm trying to be truthful. I'm trying to be honest about what I genuinely feel. And a woman's response can be so defensive that now I'm trying to protect your ears from the very thing I showed up to get out. Right?
Oh
So
my
we've
God.
been trained as men to protect the feelings of our wives and to make
Yes.
sure that she's good and maybe say it a little differently. My wife and I have a rule. We're going to show up real and we're going to show up raw. We can deal with how you feel about what I said at another time. But what I need you to do is to hear me. I need you to hear me. Don't respond in such a way that is defensive that then requires me to soothe you from because now you're adding to the burden of what I'm trying to get off my chest. Right? And so there are a lot of brothers who say, hey, Donald, what's the use, man? I'm going to end up paying for this. There's a cost for this. There's a cost for truth. There's a cost for honesty. And inside Remand, we're really, really clear with brothers about paying the cost. Whatever that cost is going to be willing to pay it. Right?
Yes,
so truth, G will tell you, truth is at the forefront of all the work that we do. You are required to tell the truth. I'm going to tell you another story. Can I tell you another story, Ty? I think this is my last story.
No, you're a preacher. You got 5 more in you.
I got 5 more in me, right? There was a guy who was cheating. I may have told this. There was a guy that was cheating on his lady. And he was just really not really engaged with his lady, didn't really want to be with his lady, just like sleeping with his lady, right? And so he tell the group, hey man, I'm just using her for a body. And what the brother said is, we ain't got no problems with that. I ain't trying to change his mind about that. He a grown man. I'm not trying to change his mind. This is what I require though. Go home and tell her the truth. Go home and be honest. Tell her, hey babe, I ain't really into you like that. I'm just using you for your body. And guess what? As is the rules of Remand, he did. He went home and he told her, I ain't really into you like that. I got this sex thing that I'm dealing with, and I'm using you for your body. Guess what she did, Jared? She said, okay, thank you for being honest. I'm out, right?
Right.
Guess what else? They're married today. Why are they married today? Because after all of that, after he was able to let it out, after he was able to tell her the truth, here's what she recognizes today. That after everything is said and done, I know my marriage is based on truth. I know he going to tell me what's on his mind and what's on his heart, right? And so at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to be truthful. And I'm not going to preach either, Jared, but I will tell you this, that if you continue in my word, then are you my disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth. And that truth that you are intimately acquainted with will free you, right? Yeah. Truth, write this down, ladies and gentlemen. Truth always hurts, but it never harms. Truth can hurt, but it never harms. It never does damage. It can hurt. The moment can be painful, but it never harms. It always liberates. And so what I would encourage everyone to do is to make sure that brothers be courageous enough to share, women be courageous enough to hear, and then come up with a plan that at least at its core, your relationship is founded and established in truth. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
Everyone that's
absolutely.
in the comment section, do me a favor. Put in the comment section, truth always hurts, but it
Yeah.
never harms. Go ahead
Never
on and add that in the comment section. And while you're adding that into the comment section, make sure you tag a friend so they can join the live
Absolutely.
on today. All right, I'm going on mute. I'm letting y'all have this because this is good.
No, listen, he's helping me. He's helping me. No, there's so much in that, and our queens have had the burden of carrying so much of our relationships from an emotional standpoint. And as we said last time, the challenge is that they want us to communicate in their language, and we don't always do that. You know, the Pharisees and the Sadducees rejected Christ because he didn't come the way they expected him to. A lot of times our queens, and so for them, it was difficult because they were so wrapped up in what God had said in the Torah and in the Pentateuch that they could not accept the God that was standing in front of them. Oftentimes, our queens are expecting us to speak and to articulate and to respond in a way that they want us to, that they reject the way that we are communicating to them.
Oh, wait,
And
Jared. Hold on right there, Jared. I need you to, I don't want you to run over that like a speed bump. Hold on. That was powerful. Let's rewind on that one.
So we all have expectations, and a lot of times expectations are unspoken, and unspoken expectations will always lead to disappointment. And so when a queen has an expectation for me to communicate with her that I don't know about or am not wired to communicate, that's going to lead her and force her to become disappointed. And then it conditions the environment where she will even reject how I am speaking because it's not coming in the way that she expects it. And so
Okay,
the
let's pause
Pharisees
right
and
there,
the
Jared.
yeah, go right ahead.
Let's pause right there. And I apologize for cutting you off, but we gotta unpack that because this is a huge problem. And if we can get this one right here, Jared, right here tonight, if we can get this one right, this will help us to bridge the gap. So let's unpack this piece right here. Miss Ty is a married woman. She has great communication with her husband, Mr. Tracy, but they have issues, as all married couples have issues, right? So let's unpack this piece. How do we help our queens? Because our queens are carrying a ton on their backs, right?
Yes,
they go into the workplace and they have to deal with shiggity that they shouldn't have to deal with.
What's that?
I can't say it like you, Don. I can't say it like you say it.
Shiggity.
I gotta keep it holy.
No.
They have to deal with things that we can't even fathom, that they have to walk in, and even in an elevator as she's on her way up to her office, she got some man pressed behind her trying to get on her butt.
Yeah.
And she dares not tells her husband Jared because he got 19 in the clip and one in the chamber. Ready to set it off.
Yeah.
She can't tell Donald because Donald will come and his look alone will freeze the whole office. So how does she carry all of this weight and at the same time create space for us, Jared, Don, for us to come and unload how we're feeling? And Don, I love what you said, what you and Queen Lala have, that you talk about it and we just gonna put it out here raw, real, and uncut, and we'll deal with feelings later. How do we help our women get into that emotionally mature place? Because the women are crying out to us as men, we need y'all to be emotionally intelligent. And we are silently crying out to our women, we need you to be emotionally available and mature to handle when I got to get all of this out.
Yeah.
How do we do that, Don?
Yeah, because most ladies ask for intimacy that they are not prepared to handle. Right. So when a brother is intimate, he lets it out and he's finally speaking. That is a level of intimacy. You're tired of us grabbing behinds and you're tired of us asking for sex and all of that because many of us view that as intimacy. But the truth of the matter is intimacy is dealing with the hard matters. It is into me see. It is me opening up myself to allow you to see the parts of me that are broken, that are bruised, that are hurting. And in order for me to do that, I got to be, I think we talked about this last week, G, or the last time that we were on. I don't need a safe space. I'm going to talk because I have to be responsible for the courage on my end. Whether the space is safe or not, it would be great that it would be. But if it's not, it doesn't control me talking. I got to share, even if I'm afraid of the consequences of me sharing. I still have to be
say that again. Say that again.
As a man, I have to be courageous enough to share, even if I'm afraid of the consequences of me sharing. This may not go the way that I want it to go. Her response may not be the way that I want her response to be.
The cookie shop may get shut down tonight.
Yes, yeah, but if you don't have Jared's point is so poignant, right? If you can't handle, if your body can't handle the discipline of not sexually satisfying yourself by your wife for one night, you are undisciplined.
Period.
You are undisciplined. If you got to seek another sister because your lady is upset at something that you said, you are controlled by the cooch.
Yes, sir.
Right? And being controlled by the cooch, you can't be a man, be controlled by the cooch, because at the end of the day, I have to allow Lala the freedom to feel. She has the freedom to feel about what I've said, the way that she feels about what I said. That is not my side of the fence. I'm not responsible for saving her from her feelings. That's not my side of the fence. My side of the fence is to be a man of integrity, to be pure of heart, to watch how I say what I say so as not to intentionally offend her. But I've got to be able to share with her and courageous enough to know that this may not end. This may end with her turning her back to me, shutting down on me, not speaking to me. I'm willing to do that for the sake of a healthy relationship on the other side of me sharing. But I can't be afraid of conversation because I somehow feel that the environment is unsafe. We deal with unsafe environments every single day. That's what we do as men.
Yes, sir.
Right. So if you're willing to chin check a dude that steps to you about your sneak, he step on your sneak and you're chin checking. You don't have enough courage. You don't know what that dude's carrying. You don't know if he's like Jared. Now I'm side eyeing Jared. I don't know what Jared got. I'm side eyeing Jared, right? Because Jared looks like a guy. He don't do nothing but shake your hand and smile. Jared just told you he gonna fill you full of hot stuff, right? So if you are willing to take that chance, you're telling me, my guy, you're telling me that you don't have enough courage to sit down and talk to your little 5'2" wife. Come on, my guy. Come on, my guy. You don't have to feel safe to be courageous enough to step into the ring and share your heart, even when the consequences of that may be something that are less than optimal.
And King, there's and to add to that, there are some fair tactics in communication that we can all develop that helps us to create an environment. Even it doesn't have to be a safe space. It just creates an environment where I'm not attacked and you're not attacked, and we don't feel bad after we've had a conversation about anything. So for case in point, an example of how that looks at is if I'm having a discussion that gets heated, sometimes in a conversation, we'll say things like, you make me sick. Well, you really didn't make me sick. I just disagree with what you said. And so we have to get to that place where we can disagree with what the person said, but not disagree with the person. Leave them with their humanity. So Don and I may be in a heated discussion, and I might say, Don, man, I hate you. No, I hate what he said. I disagree with what he said, but I don't hate him. I allow him to maintain his humanity in the conversation. A lot of times we don't allow the other person or the listener to maintain our humanity. And so it ends up being we attack them, even though we're trying to attack something they did or something they said. We're in a political environment right now. I might be for capital punishment and King G may be against it. That does not mean that I disrespect him as a human. I just disagree with his viewpoint. Likewise, in our relationships with each other and our relationships with our spouses or in business, there's a way that we can disagree with someone's topic, but not disagree with them.
Yeah.
That helps. That helps create a space.
Can you talk a bit about, though, and this is the reason why I think this is such an important topic, Ty, if you allow me to ask Jared a question.
I may not have the answer.
No, you have an answer. I just want you to over talk about it, right? And the reason why I talk about courage so much, G, is because, like, for example, in this environment, I have no control over what a person hears out of this. I have no control over their perspective that they hear out of this. I have no control over that. And if I go into a conversation trying to control what they and how they hear, then I won't develop the courage to step into it because I don't like the consequences. All of us run toward pleasure and away from pain, toward pleasure and away from pain, toward pleasure and away from pain. So what I'm asking brothers to do is to try not to see. I don't try to control, G, what Lala thinks. I love her. And if I love her, at the top of the emotional continuum is love and freedom. At the very bottom of the emotional continuum is fear and depression. So for me, if I love Lala, I give her freedom to feel. And if I'm mature as a man, then I know not to take how she responds personally. I know how to say, yeah, that ain't got nothing to do with me. So I don't take that personally. I know how to embrace her. Now, she taught me this. My wife taught me this. I know how to embrace her. I know how to sit on the floor and listen to her and not stand over top of her. I know how not to raise my voice. She taught me how to respond to her in such a way that I can get to her what I need to get to her without bruising her in the process. And what I'm asking, Jared, you to deal with is, from a clinician standpoint, right, is this idea that I don't want to talk because her response may be something that I don't want to hear. I can't control it. But what I can control, I'm going to control. And that is my willingness as a man to step into the arena, is what Brene Brown calls it, being willing to step into the arena, because most people that cheer and argue from the sidelines haven't even had enough courage to step into the arena.
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is. Wow. And please, disclaimer, I am nowhere near the mindset and the training and the articulation of a clinician. That is a completely different field that I'm in. So I can't speak
to that one, bro. So you got the anointing. You got the anointment. You got the anointment. You got the anointment on your life.
Let me lay hands.
Listen. My wife deals with bipolar, schizophrenia, PTSD. So she can deal with me. So she's good. Because I bring enough trauma into her world as it is. But the question is sound and valid, and the approach of us finding ways to communicate better and allowing how we as men to articulate our feelings, our emotions in so many ways, whether it be
Yes.
anger, disgust, joy, amusement, shame, confusion, embarrassment, all of those, that vast list of emotions that we communicate, once again, just in nonverbal ways, is a language of itself. And we may never have a safe space to do that. Why? Because we have been, many of us, unfortunately, a lot of us in our relationships with peers, with men, or even in business, we would rather exit out of the relationship than change or transform.
Yes, sir.
We would
Yes,
we
sir.
would rather
Absolutely.
exit out than allow ourselves to go through the process of transformation that's needed to be a better participant in the situation. So a lot of people would divorce and change partners rather than transform how I approach
Yes,
the
sir.
situation.
Yes, sir.
And that in and of itself is a paradigm.
Yes,
That's
sir.
how I look at the world. And any paradigm shift requires a unlearning at multiple levels. Paradigm is how I view the world and how I see myself in it. And so all of the things that make up my paradigm have to change and have to be altered and re-educated for a true
Mhm.
paradigm shift to come. And that
Mhm.
can take sometimes 5 to 7 years to sink in before it
Mhm.
goes on autopilot,
Mhm. Mhm.
where it
Yeah.
becomes second nature for us as men to do that. And now that puts an additional pressure on a queen in our lives to have to try to navigate my dysfunctional thinking in so many different ways.
Mhm.
Jared, I wanna push
Yes, sir.
back on you
Go
because
right ahead.
what you
That's
just
why they pay
said,
you the big bucks.
it what, what you just said is commonplace in the psychology community. That it's going to take 3 to 5 to 7 years for a person to develop, having gone through the process of unlearning. I want to push back on that because what I've learned and what I've seen, both personally as well as what I've seen in the lives of others, is this: the rapidity of your obedience and your willingness to go through the process of transformation determines how quickly you're able to unlearn so that you can now relearn. When we are resistant to change, the longer we are resistant to the change, the longer our process for transformation becomes. So yeah, it will take 5 to 7 years because you a stiff-necked ninja and you don't want to let go of old, painful, toxic behaviors that are
Absolutely.
preventing you from building healthy love relationships,
For sure.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
For sure.
Conversely, if you say, you know what, I know I need to change. I told my dear brother, my friend, my coach, I need you to kick me in the A.
You said the word. You said the word, Gene.
I did say the word.
You said the word.
I did say the word.
Mhm.
I can say it privately. Kick
Yep.
me in a donkey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because, Jared, Miss Ty, I need to change. I can't go to the next level. I can't serve God and serve his people the way I'm supposed to unless I have a major transformation in my life. Where God wants to take me, where I am currently is not good enough to go to the next level. I've got to die to who I am to
Absolutely.
become the man God wants me to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
That's
the
right. That's right.
rapidity of your obedience and your willingness to go through that process determines how
Absolutely.
quickly you move into transformation.
Absolutely.
Now
100%.
you said some key things, both of you, King Don and King G. You brought up the word coach several times in what you've said. Most brothers don't have a coach. Most brothers don't have a coach. And here's the thing: you need a coach, you need a mentor, and you need an advocate. You need all three. Your
Wait, say
your
that one more
coach,
time. You need
you
a
need a
coach.
coach, you need a
Mhm.
mentor, and you need an advocate. You need all three. Your coach is kind of like, if most of us are drivers, so you're driving on the road. Um, the coach is like the interstate, the highway. It's there every day, every step of the way, every turn, every twist. That's the coach. They're the road that you're on. They're there with you every day, every minute of the day. That's your coach. Your mentor are like the signs that only come every 15 to 20 miles to just let you know you're going in the right direction. That's your mentor. Your advocate is someone who is speaking about you in rooms that you're not mature enough to be in yet. They're speaking your name in places that you are not ready to get there yet. That's your advocate. You have to have a coach. You need that pavement who's there every step of the way to help walk with you. You need the mentor, someone who's only around when you make major life decisions, that you can bounce ideas off of him. So every 10 to 15 miles, what does that sign say on the I-75? New York, 300 miles, keep going. That's the mentor. They're not there every step of the way. But then you need the advocate, someone who sees your potential that you don't see. They see the giftings inside of you that you don't even know are there, and they're speaking your names in rooms that you are not able to be in yet because you're not mature enough to be there yet, but they're positioning you for the future.
That's really good.
Most men don't have a coach, they don't have a mentor, and they don't have an advocate. But yet, we're trying to navigate this journey. Now, you've also brought up intelligence. And the reason why a paradigm shift can take 5 to 7 years for the complete, remember, a paradigm is made up of your education, your upbringing, your economic status, your family structure. All of those things help make up your paradigm, and all of those need to be rewired. So you might rewire one aspect, but that's not a complete paradigm shift. A complete paradigm shift is when all of those variables that make me look at the world the way I do and the lens that I'm wearing become altered. Now, the intelligence is key because the intelligence is the elasticity of my mind. So Jabez's prayer was not a prayer for new houses and new cars. It was a prayer for more elasticity. God, would you enlarge my capacity to understand your concepts and your precepts? The territory was between his ears. So the elasticity is my ability to interrogate data through a new lens, come up with new outcomes, and not get stuck in the past. That's intelligence, where I'm able to interrogate and decipher new information with a new framework, which is supposed to be the message of the kingdom, come out with new outcomes and not get trapped in the dysfunction of my past. That's intelligence.
I love
now,
that.
Add to that now emotional intelligence, and that's when we need counseling.
That's good.
So if you're a counselor in the room, please go in the chat and let us people know you're available. The object of this was for us to come out of this as men and as queens and as kings, and it'd be okay for me to go seek mental health therapy. So if there's a therapist listening and watching, please put your information in the chat. It must get to the place where therapy is necessary. It must get to that place where I believe that therapy is necessary to be able to help me not get stuck in the past. Because while I've got new data, I've got new frameworks, I can come up with new outcomes, but I've got to resist the temptation of being caught in the past, because then I end up with the same variables. Even though I end up with the same outcomes, even though I got new variables. And so there's the danger of why a paradigm shift can take 5 to 7 years.
And the other thing to that, Jared, is brothers, because we're talking about brothers, nothing has to be wrong.
No.
Nothing has to be wrong. Jared said it earlier that we're waiting until a limb is about to fall off before we'll go see a doctor. Nothing has to be wrong. Sometimes you need to go and just check in, because you got blind spots. You have blind spots. All of us do. And so whether we're talking about mental health or physical health, brothers, go to the doctor. Just see someone that is trained. And I love your barber. I don't even know him, but I love him. He ain't trained.
No, he's
he
not.
ain't trained. You going in, you telling him all your business. He in trouble too. Right? So find someone that is trained in the art of listening, hearing, responding in ways that are healthy. Not a dude that you tell, I would leave her. Yeah, he ain't choose, right? So
No,
I
not at
look
all.
our culture for Black men, the barbershop is that space.
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
saying to us as Black men that the barber shop doesn't have the capacity.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And
And
yet
then
that's the space
imagine,
that we find ourselves.
imagine this, King. With COVID-19, we weren't going to the barber,
Yeah,
which means we didn't have a place to vent.
yeah,
And then grief sat in. Because
yeah,
remember, grief is just not the loss of life. Grief is when there's an abrupt change in my pattern of behavior. My
yeah,
heart and my mind go through grief. So when we couldn't go to the mall during COVID, when we couldn't go to the movies, when we couldn't go to the barber shop, we went through stages of grief. Because why? There was an abrupt change in our normal pattern of behavior, not
That's
just
right.
grief from the loss of life.
yeah.
So we still have some grief issues that we're dealing with, and once again, it's impacting our relationships as fathers, as husbands, as boyfriends, as men, as workers, and we struggle with that because why? We are not having a place where we can let it out, or we're letting it out in dysfunctional, self-sabotaging behavior. Listen, some of our biggest challenges are self-perpetrated. Some of our biggest challenges that we have are self-inflicted wounds.
Hmm.
Not
And
not
and
not the white
brothers, we
man.
know that you're doing the best you can with what you got. We know
Yeah,
that you're doing the best you can with what you got.
Right.
But it is you need a different set of tools.
yeah,
You need a different set of tools. And so what Jared is saying is that even that which is not your fault is still your responsibility.
yeah, you're
That's right.
A
accountable.
lot of what has happened to you ain't your fault. But if you're
Yeah,
gonna get up out of it, it's your
you're so accountable.
responsibility to do that
Yeah,
because
you're
no
Absolutely.
accountable.
one's coming to save you. Absolutely no one's coming to save us. And so I want brothers to hear my heart because we know that you watch pornography because you're trying to sedate,
Hmm.
you're trying to numb it. We know why you drink and smoke and beat your wife because you're trying to sedate.
Hmm.
And what I'm saying to you is that's the corniest behavior that you could ever exhibit. And there's a different approach to life that you're gonna have to learn how to take. And let me just say this, then I'm gonna be quiet, G. That's my fourth one, right? Is that my fourth?
Yep. That's your fourth one. Yeah.
Let me
Yeah, that
say
is.
to the ladies, this is why mental health should be of Black men should be important to you.
Hmm.
If you are attempting to date, if you're dating with the purpose of being married, don't you want a dude who has done some work? Because it's not your job to raise me. That's not your job. That's not your assignment. It's not your responsibility. That is too heavy a burden. But we need you to recognize that we go through very real things as well. And oftentimes, posts like this, and I shout out to every lady that's with us today, this doesn't get a whole lot of play. But if the the dating pool has pee in it, the only way to clean up the pee is for us to develop some healed men, some men who are whole, some men who are doing the work. And guess what, ladies? This is why many of you ain't ready for that kind of dude.
Nope.
Because that kind of dude, an emotionally intelligent kind of dude, a dude that has a high IQ, EQ, and AQ, at the moment that you disturb his peace, he will usher you out the door with a smile rather than deal with any drama that comes from you. So before you say, God, send me an emotionally intelligent man, know what comes with that. Know what comes with that. That's a
Yes.
guy who just doesn't put up with anything. He's a guy who has worked so hard to protect and to develop peace that he will usher anything that disturbs it from his space and from his place.
1000%. Miss
And
Ty, I'm
Mhm.
gonna. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. No, go ahead and jump in, Ty.
Oh no, I was just going to add on to what Dr. Morton said. When me and my husband, when we were dating, and Dr. G knows Tracy. Tracy is very calm. He doesn't argue. Like he's not, He's just my tall glass of water. I'm like his biggest fan. And we were dating. You know, I wear my emotions on my face, so I can't lie. And he said something, and I looked at him, and he calmly looked at me. He said, "So if we're gonna do that, we can't do this." And I was like, "What did you do that? What?" And that was it. He didn't. It was no cursing. It was no voice raising or anything. He said, "We're not going to do that. And if you're going to do that, we can't do this."
I love it.
That was the last time I did that. And that's not good for life. But,
Yes.
And Miss Ty, that was before you were married, right, Miss Ty?
yes, this was while we were dating. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were dating. And but what it was,
Almost fooled around and lost a husband.
I almost missed my blessing, you know. And but it was one of those things that was very new to me. I had never been in a relationship with
Yes.
someone that doesn't argue, doesn't get riled up, and you know, I come out of my previous marriage was kind of abusive, you know. So
Yes.
I was always ready to throw hands if I needed to.
Yes.
And then when, you know, I met Tracy, it was a totally different world, you know, and we've been together, you know, married, and it's going on 8 years we've been together. And when I tell you, I think we may have had 3 arguments. He's never called me out my name. He's never cursed me out. He's never raised his voice. So there are men out there that are healed,
Absolutely.
that are
Absolutely.
great men that want to
Absolutely.
provide. I mean, he provides, I don't pay bills. Like, when I tell you Jesus did that, I
Yes.
tell you. But
Yeah.
I had to get healed too, to be
Yes.
able to be receptive to the type
Yeah.
of man
Yes.
that he
Yeah.
was, the type
Yes.
of man that
Absolutely.
he is. So
Yes. Yes.
thank you
Yeah.
for bringing that up, Dr. Morton.
Absolutely.
No, listen,
This is so rich. Jared, hold on. Let me jump in 1 second,
Go ahead.
Jared. We have 10 minutes left, with 10 and a half minutes left. And I want to be respectful to the community. I want to be respectful to all of you, Miss Ty especially, who just got back, and she got cheering. She got to get ready, and she got a husband she got to minister to. Praise God. Amen. So I want to be respectful to that. And so I'm gonna, since my brother Don shared some wonderful stories, I'm gonna withhold my story tonight. I will come back and share it another time. What I want to do at this moment, I want to go ahead and let us close out with final thoughts to close out this panel discussion tonight. And I know some of you have already shooting me messages saying, please, y'all come back with part 3. Well, my brother, Jared Paris, he and his wife are headed to Nairobi, Kenya this Saturday. So, and they'll be there in Africa for a while. So there's no time soon we can come back, because my brother, Dr. Donald Morton, is taking, him and his queen are taking a vacay getaway, and they will not be present either. So I will just pray and ask God for guidance about how to come back and share more. But I'm grateful to all of you for your support. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you to my beautiful sister, Mrs. Tamika Chambliss Williams. Thank you, Queen. I appreciate you. Tell Mr. Tracy I love and appreciate him too for lending you to us tonight. And of course, to my brothers, Jared Paris and Donald Morton. Gentlemen, let's close out with final thoughts. Let's let the Queen go first with a final thought, and then Jared, and then Don, you close us out.
Yes, sir.
Final thought: find someone that is trained to listen. Not someone that can listen, but make sure you find someone that is trained to listen. That is the key.
Jared?
Wow. Well, and thank you all for allowing me to be here with you. What a tremendous evening. And I've learned a lot. I've hoping that you've got some value out of something that I might have shared. What I would also want to encourage find a mental health therapist. There's some that are listening here. Again, put your information in the chat. Find someone near you. The members of your pastor is not always and typically not equipped to do it. I'm not a mental health therapist. I'm not trained to take you back to that trauma, help you reprocess it, and walk you through it again. That's what a mental health therapist is trained and licensed and skilled at doing. They have modalities that help take you and walk you back through that trauma and allow you to deprogram how you handled it then and walk you through and bring you back to the present. Because our culture, we brought this up last time, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is embedded in our culture. And that triangle is really upside down because it helps you and teaches you and grooms you to take care of your psychological needs first without having the identity of who you are. So it puts self-actualization at the top, which you get last, which is what you really need first. You need to get identity and self-actualization before you can get with anything else in terms of psychological needs and self-esteem and love and belonging and safety. So his pyramid is sound and valid in its content, but it's actually upside down. But our culture teaches men that pyramid. So you can Google it and see for yourself. And so, queens, if you've got brothers and sisters and men or husbands, your contribution to their life is to help first get them to understand who they are and their identity as a child of the King, who God created them to be, and let that be their firm foundation. And then everything else is built on top of that, because if your foundation is cracked, everything you put on top of it is going to fall at some point. And like King Don said, a volcano is still a volcano, even though it's been dormant for a while. It will erupt eventually, and it will explode, and lava destroys everything in it around it. I dry dock my yacht with that.
Let me tell y'all why I should be most celebrated here tonight among everybody. Because my air conditioning is out, and I've lost 15 pounds sitting here tonight during this podcast. That's why I got my Baptist towel. I'm wiping myself off every 5 minutes. But let me tell you why I'm here. I'm here because I love Gerald Hightower. I'm here because I love Jared. I'm here because I love Ty. You guys have become family to me, and I wouldn't have missed this for the world. I'm here because I love our brothers, and I love our sisters. And I'm unapologetic about making sure our brothers get healed. In Sovereign Man, we talk about not being our brother's keeper. I'm not your keeper. I'm not your handler. I'm actually your brother. I am you. It's the principle of Ubuntu. I am you. Yeah, Lord, send some AC. Bruh, pray. Send some AC. I don't remember half the stuff I said tonight. I blacked out several times. but it's important to me that there'll never be a time that Gerald Hightower calls me and says, "Hey, Donald, can you do this with me, man?" And it involves black men. I'm a one-trick pony. I don't talk about sisters because I don't know sisters. I'm not a sister. I talk about brothers. I'll die on this hill. I'll live the rest of my life in advocacy for black men. And one of the things I need you brothers to understand is you can't do this by yourself. You've tried. You failed miserably because you were never designed to do this in isolation. You were designed to do it inside community and inside a brotherhood. So if there's anyone who knows, we know where you are. Not because we're clinicians, just like Jared said, we're not clinicians, not even from a theological standpoint. We are you. We got the same issues you got. And I'm pulling for you, my guy. But you're going to have to make some decisions. And you got to make those decisions before it's too late. I'm asking you for once, do this one for you. Don't do it because your wife is pressuring you or because your children need you. Do this one for you. The world needs you. Your unique value that you bring to this world. We need you. And we need the best and highest version of you. Stand strong, bro. We've come to stand shoulder to shoulder with you. We just need you to make a decision to stand shoulder to shoulder with us, and let's walk this road together. I love and respect y'all. See y'all the next time.
Man, Don, thank you so much, my brother Jared. Thank you, Ms. Ty. Thank you. I will add nothing to that, but thanks and appreciation to all of you. and especially to the great Dr. Donald Morton, who has lost 7 pounds. Thank you, my brother, for sitting in the steam room for this last 90 minutes and blessing us, actually a total of 2 hours, because you gave us a little bit of time as we had backstage time. So thank you for sitting in the sauna. Thank you, Queen Lala, for allowing your husband to sweat. He will take a shower before he comes to bed. Praise the Lord.
I will take a shower, babe.
And and to my beloved brother, Jared Paris, brother, I love you to life. I thank God for
Likewise,
the great
man.
value that you brought here tonight. We know, I personally know that your wife is brilliant. I've sat in many rooms with your wife early in the morning as she's teaching in the area of counseling. But brother, you are graced to minister to areas of brokenness. And I know personally, because brothers have messaged me while we're live, brothers have messaged me that they are being blessed beyond measure and they are inspired to address their mental and emotional health issues because of you brothers coming on tonight. And Ms. Ty, as always, thank you for serving as our moderator. You did a fantabulous job as always. So thank you so much. Thank you to all the ladies and the gentlemen that came into this broadcast tonight. I appreciate you all greatly. We will leave this. There's Queen Lala right there. Says yes, he will. He will jump in that shower before he comes to this bed. Hallelujah, amen. I don't even think you're gonna get a cuddle, a kiss, until you take me to the water. Take me to the. Okay, we got to go. I love y'all, family. This is your brother G Hightower. We love you. God bless you. I am the CEO of Real Love Nation. Those of you that don't know, Real Love Nation is a relationship development, premarital consulting, and divorce recovery firm. I bring you 20 years of counseling experience specializing in the area of relationships. So I ain't new to this. I'm real true to this, passionate about the mission of building healthy love relationships. And if we're going to have healthy love relationships, we begin with mental health, sound mental health. So thank you. I love you. You all be blessed. We'll leave this replay up so you all can go and check it out. Have a good night, family.
Good night, everyone.